company plug.
The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, I want to welcome everybody. Friends in Recovery podcast, broadcasting live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café. What a beautiful place this is. We are so fortunate to be here. I'm Mike Miles.
I'm Ed Chionchio, and we have a guest sitting in for Jeff Zeisel. We don't know where Jeff is today. We think he might be in the Caribbean somewhere, relaxing.
Or
Israel,
at
yes.
the Wailing Wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike?
Hi, my name is Mike Boyd. First of all, thank you, gentlemen. I'm honored to be here. I'm a facilitator for Learn to Cope, which is a group started by Joanne Peterson to help families deal with the disease of addiction.
Great. And we'll get back to you a little bit of what you do and why you're here with us. But he's actually filling in for Jeff very last minute.
Absolutely. So. And we are your Friends in Recovery. Come get sober with us. We can be reached at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. We have an 800 number. It's 800-989-6504. You can call that number 24/7, 365.
And you'll get him, the Podfather.
You'll get me.
And we'll go into that in a minute.
You can also reach us at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to like us and subscribe. And most importantly, we'd also like to take this moment to thank Genesis House for sponsoring Friends in Recovery podcast. Now back to Studio 21 Podcast Cafe and our show. What do we got going on today, Ed?
Well, Mike, we got a very special guest on Skype with us. I guess you guys can see him in the corner of the screen there, and his name is Sam Davis.
Hey, Sam.
And
Sam.
he is the owner, I believe, Sam, right, of Broad Highway Recovery in Richmond, Virginia.
That is correct.
Great. We're going to get into that in a couple minutes, what you do and kind of what your services are, and tell us a little about why you're sitting in that chair and talking to us.
All right.
As long as you're okay with that.
Sure.
And Mike had a special treat for us today. And
I did. I took it upon myself to have some T-shirts made because I've been doing this for about 3 months now.
Yeah.
Mr. Jonathan, 3 months, is that correct?
Yep.
The producer extraordinaire.
Who's an electrician today, I guess.
He is. He stepped out. And so I had these shirts made.
I can model it for everybody.
That'd be good, yeah. Seeing you have the physique for it.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Friends in Recovery logos on the front, if you're not able to be watching us. It says Friends in Recovery. Then we have a triangle, Mind, Body, Spirit. And it says the Addiction Recovery Podcast. And if you turn around, Ed.
That would be me.
Yep. It says Podfather on the back with a PB and a microphone. And this is a opportunity to thank the people that suggested this, Mr. Tom Troy and David Garoppolo, who is also the owner of the Studio 21 Cafe. Dave's not here today, but we did leave a shirt for him on his desk.
Absolutely. And they're great shirts. And if you guys want one, you can email us. We're trying to get some prices together and get some shirts out to our listening audience because I think it's a great shirt. I love it. It's comfortable, and I get to show off my tattoos today.
You do. Got a lot of ink.
I do.
Looking sharp.
So, well, without further ado, Sam, real quick, I just want Mike, because Mike is our guest today because Jeff is running around somewhere doing what Jeff does on Tuesdays, besides being here with us. Mike, just tell us what brought you here real quick and why you qualify to sit in this seat.
So I have a son that has 4 years sober today. The disease of addiction, as we all know, the country knows, is taken us by storm, unfortunately. It's a disease like we've never seen. You hear a lot about diabetes and cancer and Alzheimer's and everything else, but when it comes to addiction, a lot of people kind of stick their heads into the ground and don't want to hear about it. I was once that father. My son, great person. I'm very lucky that he is sober and alive today, and a father of a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. That wouldn't have been possible if I didn't go to my first Learn to Cope meeting, started by Joanne Peterson. And she started it for families who have loved ones dealing with the disease of addiction. And it helps us deal with ourselves and helps ourselves realize what's in front of us, because the disease of addiction is a family disease.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
And we're gonna ask you back on another show to kind of get more into Learn to Cope, because it is a wonderful program up here in Massachusetts, and hopefully it'll grow into more states and everything. But we want you on the panel today because you are a good friend of ours, and you come here religiously, if that's a proper word to use, to watch the show, and we did need a fill-in. So and you being in the position you're in, we can definitely have you speak to Sam about ask some questions, and because you're in that hot seat of
Absolutely.
of where you've been. So Sam, now you, our guest. I believe Melissa kind of brought us together. I guess you know her. She is an employee of Genesis House that you work closely with. And she asked me if it would be okay for you to come onto the show, and she told me a little bit about you, and I think it was a wonderful idea, and you have a wonderful story, and we want to hear a little bit about it, and what brought you into the broad highway recovery, and why you kind of put it together.
Sure. Well, first thing I want to say is thanks for having me on today, and the next thing is one of those shirts, one of my parting gifts for being a guest on the show, one of those fine shirts you have on there, to put you on the spot a little bit.
We'll get one out to you.
Just messing with you. Hey, it is great to be able to be on a show like this and talk about recovery. And how I got into this seat here is, I've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I was addicted to everything. And I like to say that from the ages of 12 to about 27, I was a substance abuser, right? And from 27 to 36, I abused everybody in my path in order to get my substance, including my family, mostly my family. And they kept bailing me out and enabling me. And they bought a house down the road from them so they could keep an eye on me. I'd get out of treatment, 2 weeks out of treatment, and say, I just don't think I'm ready to go back to work yet. And I'd say, I need a new truck because the drug dealers know what truck I'm driving. And I would just manipulate the heck out of my family. And it wasn't until they stopped, they got some help and they did some work of their own. And they were willing to not rob me of an experience that I so desperately needed. And that was pain. I needed that pain to get me moving forward. And they offered me that pain by not enabling me any longer. Landed me in a long-term program. And, I had an experience in working the 12 steps and gained some humility and a psychic change that has gotten me into long-term sobriety. My sobriety date is July 20th, 2009. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Great.
Great.
And we can find out more information about you on your website. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And you want to give all that vital information so if anybody has an intervention or they want to get into a recovery home, they can have your information. Can you give that out real quick?
Absolutely. It's www.broadhighwayrecovery.com. And my cell phone, they can always reach me on my cell phone at area code 512-777-9852.
Great. And we'll get that at the end of the show too. So if anybody missed it, we can get it at the end of the show.
Sam, really nice hearing what you just said. Being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And the people that enable us and that think they're helping us, usually the people closest to us, the people we love the most, they're in the dark, and it's just, I love what Mike said about this being a disease that people just don't want to talk about because they have it on a moral issue. They don't really have it on a physical, psychological, emotional issue. They have it more on a moral issue. As we know, though, as we get better and life's better, without any substance at all, complete sobriety, and all of a sudden, the flowers look a little bit brighter, the birds sing a little bit sweeter, things are good, you know, and it's a result of recovery, and it's going to meetings, and it's asking for help. And let me just ask you this. So you sound like a very knowledgeable, grateful, recovering addict. And do you go to a lot of meetings still? You've been sober for several years. Now you've been sober 10 years, literally almost 10 years.
Yeah, so, well, 9 years.
9 years, I'm sorry.
I sponsor people. I am sponsored. I have a service position in a 12-step fellowship. I have a home group. I do go to meetings. I do service work. And not just with, and I'm not here to sound like I'm bragging that I do all of this stuff, you know, because there's always work to be done, and more work to be done. I've recently gotten more involved in meditation, a more deeper guided meditation, and that has improved my life drastically, my outlook on life. But yes, I do still go to meetings and I'm very involved in 12-step rooms.
Good.
So important to hear that.
Absolutely. And, you know, part of the panel up here, we're in recovery, and all three of us, if I may say so, Mike, is that, well, you said at the beginning, that we all have a loved one in recovery, or loved ones in recovery. And I think part of that story might have hit home for you, Mike, as far as what Sam said.
Absolutely, Sam. Great introduction, because the family, we're enablers. We're like Papa Bear and Mama Bear at home, and we really, what do? You raise your children to the best you can, and then all of a sudden, one day, you might see some maybe a sign that they're using too much drinking, too much drugs, and then all of a sudden, it becomes really unbearable, and then you deny it. Then you keep helping them because you can fix this. I thought I could really fix this myself.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, obviously, we all know I had no clue about anything, and by me trying to fix this, I enabled them almost into the grave.
Yeah.
And that's what families do. They just don't know until they can come and get help themselves, so they can help themselves, and then they can help their loved one.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know, enabling and love are so close. They're strange bedfellows in one way, but they're so close. And as a parent, I have 3 wonderful children, grandchildren. I'm very fortunate. I have a business. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm a licensed alcohol drug counselor. This is what I've been doing for the last 19 years. I was a cop as well. I was a policeman for 35 years. I worked 2 jobs for basically 16 years. And people might have thought I changed one addiction for another, a workaholic. But, you know, in a sense, that was true. But what was important to me was helping people, because it helped me, as they say in the 12 steps, you carry the message, you know. And it really helped me so many times. I'd be sitting with someone. I don't make a heck of a lot of money, because I have people that they don't have money sometimes. Some people do. And you know what? I've never turned anyone away because of that, because I've always taken something out of that. And I can honestly say that listening to you, just for a minute, Sam, it really touched my heart, because, you know, you give it right back. You're talking about what got you here to where you're at, what got Mike here, what got Ed here, you know, myself. It is the program of recovery, and it doesn't matter which program you go to. Do you agree, Ed? Do you agree it doesn't matter?
100%. I agree that 100%. It's how we got here, and 9 years for you, Sam, and 4 years for your son, and us with all those years. The main thing is that we have those years. We can sit here and talk about it. We weren't enabled by our parents at one point, so we can live. Mike, you and I were talking about that before. We can live now because of the actions that our loved ones took against us for the better. And we thought at the time it was probably they hated us. They didn't you know. They don't understand us, you know. It's only cocaine and alcohol every day, you know. But they had to think for us, and they had to stop it and kind of you know. And we did that to our kids too, you know. Mike and I too. We had to stop it, you know. So.
Yeah. And until you stop it, until you put your foot down and say that from what I understand, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired as the person with the addiction and the disease, but the parents have to also say, wait a minute, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of you destroying yourself, me watching you dying, and then I was dying. My son's mom was dying. We all die with our loved one.
It's a family disease.
Certainly,
Absolutely.
So much.
Yeah. No, good.
Well, I was just going to say, with all the years, and you could have 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but you know what? You have one day. This is how I look at recovery.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the very most basic simple way for me to get sober was to follow what somebody told me to do, and that was to live one day at a time.
Yeah.
To get up, ask for help, get on my knees. That's how I was told to do it. Doesn't matter who you're praying to. I could be praying like they said, a lampshade, but I don't. I have my own God of my understanding. Asking for help. Go through the day, sometimes dropping down a few more times, get on my knees, making decisions, and at the end of the day, thanking your higher power for that day of recovery. Because we all have one day. And I can honestly say, when I go to meetings now and I hear a newcomer, and this is for anybody that's listening that might be sick and suffering and really wants help, doesn't know how to do it, they hear about 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it might scare the hell out of them. No, all you got to do is stay sober one day.
Yep.
One day, just one day.
Just give it a shot.
Just stay sober for that day. The next day will take care of itself.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you agree, Ed?
I agree 100%. Absolutely. And that's how I still do it 24 years later. And Sam, I'm guessing you do it the same way. I mean, we work the same program, a 12-step program, and I'm guessing you do it the same way.
Absolutely. It says, I have dreams and I have goals, and it tells me in my literature that it's okay for me to have my head in the clouds, but my feet must be firmly planted on the ground, and that means right here in today.
I love that. Yeah.
And about that lampshade thing, I hear that a lot, and my life would look completely different if I got quiet here a couple minutes before this show started to bring God into this. It would have looked maybe a little bit different if I'd have went to my lampshade and asked that to give me a little peace and quiet. Or when I'm behind the wheel of my vehicle, I'm going through a lot of pain 8 months ago or 9 months ago, and I'm crying out to God. If I was crying out to that lampshade, I don't think that lampshade would have told me in that little gut movement in my belly that God consciousness of mine to tell me to go to a meeting. I don't think a lampshade would have told me to do that.
Yeah. And that's a great analogy. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back. You're listening to Friends in Recovery Podcast live from Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Put that hammer down and check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is a weekly podcast where Tommy Two Shoes and No Nonsense Nance sit down with a different specialist every week. If you're tired of unvetted and uninsured contractors charging too much money for not enough quality, you need to check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast, the Contractors Referral Program. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is live on YouTube every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. or on demand on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast catcher. Put that hammer down and don't do it yourself. Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Go back to this.
Hey, welcome back to Friends in Recovery Podcast, live from the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. I'm just laughing because the place is under construction. There's electricians, plumbers, everyone's running around. You'd never know it. This place looks beautiful. I love the lights over there.
Yeah, it looks
Sean's
good.
over there. Yeah, he's looking good.
Yeah.
All right. Ed, you got anything for us?
I want to just ask Sam a couple questions about interventions and maybe if he had an intervention done. We got a little bit here. Why I want to know why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, obviously I know why you're doing what you're doing, but did you have an intervention because you do interventions? Your company does interventions. Did you experience an intervention from the other side?
I did, and it wasn't let's sit in the living room and have your family write some letters.
Okay.
Is that I came into a probation officer's office And, she let me spill on about how great I was doing. I was all gray and scaly. I was smoking crack every day, drinking 180 milligrams of methadone, and I'm coming in and telling her how great I'm doing. I had a condom full of somebody else's urine, my son's urine, as a matter of fact. And she said, "Oh, that's all good and all, but we've got somebody here to see you." And it was this veteran interventionist in my family, and my family didn't say a word. And there were 2 deputies, and he said, "You can go with me to Texas, and you're going to treatment for a year. Or you can go with these 2 deputies and you're going to prison today. Which one do you want to do?" And I was so sick that I had to sit there and think about which one I wanted to choose. So I did. I had an intervention done, and I remember, I was all blurry eyed and on the plane, and he was sitting beside me, all happy and all, and I just thought it was the end of my life, but I remember thinking, I sure would like to do what he does one day.
Yeah.
It was that one little thought.
Yeah, and we all think that. I think when we get recovery and we get it and grasp it right from the beginning, and we want to help somebody, and few of us are blessed to be in the position all of us are in today. You know what I mean? Some of us don't even get this. Some people are still out there sick and suffering. Some people think that they're, what they're doing is okay, and it's not. And again, it's the families enabling them. It's you had a great family. Listen. I've did plenty of interventions or even talking to people on the phone where they chose to go to jail versus recovery, and that's the craziness of this disease. Mike, I'm sure you've seen that,
Sure,
right?
certainly.
I mean, with people sitting in your office.
The attitude of gratitude is, it's so profound. For me, going away was I was 32 years old. It was a tough thing, But once I got there, I knew the second day I woke up in detox, I knew I was on the right path. I knew I was going in the right direction because I knew it was over. I knew this was it. I'm going to have an opportunity. Everything you're afraid to let go of, all that poison, like you said, sitting in the probation office, gray and all scaly and feeling horrible and all kinds of meds. I've also had urine in my pants. That wasn't my urine. I had it in a prophylactic, and I was at the gun range qualifying with all the other cops, and it's kind of scary thinking of it. And I had to kneel down from the prone position, and the condom broke.
Oh,
yeah. And here I got somebody else's urine running down my leg, and I just got Policeman of the Year. I got all these awards, and I think I'm doing great.
And you're pissing your pants?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even my piss. But my point is, when I was in the second day of detox, that moment came back to me, and I thought I was doing a good job. I was fooling everybody. I was fooling nobody,
Yeah.
But the attitude of gratitude, I love hearing it from you, Sam. I like hearing it from Mike. Mike, you got a grateful heart.
Yes, I do.
No doubt, right?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he does.
I do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're blessed, and we're all blessed up here to have our sons and daughters in recovery, such as Mike and yourself, Sam. And real quick, I did say you're from Richmond, Virginia, but that accent doesn't sound like Richmond, Virginia. We're up here talking during a break. We're like, that's not Richmond, Virginia.
Sam, the war's over, just so you know, too. And, I got bad news.
Well, I was born and raised just southwest of Richmond. We have a certain dialect in that area of the state that others don't have.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I just recently moved to Richmond about 4 years ago, about an hour southwest of Richmond, a little small town.
Our clinical director's from Lynchburg area, and he's not as heavy as an accent, but he definitely has that accent like you do. You sound like our clinical director, Stephen Adams. You spoke to Stephen, right?
Wonderful man. Wonderful
man.
man.
So obviously you got here because of an intervention, and then you had that thought in your mind probably for a while, and you said, okay, well, this is kind of what I want to do. I want to do this and take it in that direction. 9 years ago, you probably never thought you would be on a podcast show doing interventions, being sober, not doing drugs. I mean, is that correct?
It is crazy. If I could not have written down in my wildest dreams at 2 months sober of what my life would look like today. I mean, when I left to go to treatment that last time, I was living in a single wide trailer with a hole in the floor, couldn't pay rent on that, stolen cable, had lost my kids, owed everybody in the world money, probably owed you money if you look back far enough. You know, dust wouldn't settle around me.
We'll talk about that later.
And to now, you know, I raise my children. I have full custody of my kids. I raise them, I medicate them, I educate them, I discipline them. I have a great full life today, and I could have never seen that coming.
Wow, that's great. That's great. And we, as us too, I mean, we're all blessed. As long as we work the program and do what we have to do, we're blessed, really, you know, and stay sober. That's the easy part, staying sober. Now, anyways, for people who are listening, that's the hard part, you know, when you're sitting on that plane and wondering what's going to happen in treatment, or you're taking that drive to that treatment center, wherever you're going, you know, it's, you know, you don't see the blessings, you know, 9 years later, 20-some years later, 30-some years later, you know, you don't see those blessings. But I thank God for them every day, and it sounds like you do too, Sam.
Yeah, and it's not just that, it's the lives that we get to touch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when we're going into treatment, it's about, I just don't want to smoke crack anymore. I just don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to drink methadone anymore. I don't eat pills. You know, I don't want to burn holes in my pajamas anymore. It's like so selfish. I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we impact lives. That's a ripple effect that impacts others' lives, and it's amazing.
Yep.
It is absolutely amazing.
It can be done. It shows that it can be done. You know, that's kind of how we do it. Real quick, you do have some sober homes. Is that correct?
I do. I have 3. You know, in great alcoholic fashion, I was having a hard time after, you know, intervening on clients, and they would complete treatment of finding suitable sober living around for them. And the alcoholic that I am, I said, you know, the hell with it, I'll do it myself. So that's what I did. I created them. And I remember praying for it several years ago. I said, you know, I'd like to have some homes. And then, you know, God laid one at my feet.
Wow.
And then another one, and then another one. I have 2 for men and 1 for women.
Okay.
And 24 beds total. And it's quite a joy to see these people grow, to come in and you know, not knowing, you know, really what to do, and to watch them get involved in the process and the 12 steps and sponsorship, and a very structured environment. You know, my literature says that we are undisciplined, you know, so we need structure, we need discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. We still do, even all these years later, we still need it, you know, we need that.
You're right about that.
And again, towards the end of the show, I'll get some information. They can reach you out. They could get that information about your recovery homes on the website also, right?
Yes, sir.
Good,
yes.
Good.
Could you give us the website one more time?
Yeah, give us the website and the phone number real quick.
Yeah, www.broadhighwayrecovery.com.
And the phone number, your personal cell phone number, you said?
Yes, sir. 512-777-9852.
And that's Mr. Jonathan always says, you know, Mike always gives out his cell phone number. That's what we do. We want these people to understand that you know, our job is an 8 to 5. And, you know, if a call comes in the middle of the night, or, you know, whatever it is, we need to help somebody. Because I made that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, yes, Stace, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning once. My wife always complains I go to sleep early. But yeah, you know, our job is an 8 to 5 job. The phone doesn't go off at 5 o'clock, and we go about our business. And you know, we go about our business, but we're always there for somebody, you know, and it's great. It's great to know that somebody's out there doing interventions and getting people to sober homes, and you know, it's wonderful to have you on the show as far as that goes. You know, it's
an honor to be on the show.
Great.
Certainly, it's amazing that to hear somebody that not only came from where you came from, but to continue it. And, you know, sober homes, 3 sober homes, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's blessings. That's what it is.
Yeah,
you know,
it really is.
We're the that's the promises of the program. You know, as long as we do what we have to do, the promises come true. Right. You know,
the promises talk about knowing a new freedom. You'll know a new freedom.
Yep.
And you know, I can equate being addicted to like being in jail. And I worked in a jail before I was a cop. I was a prison guard, correctional officer they call him today. But you know, I never had a lot of empathy. It was a minimal prison, but these guys, you know, whatever they did, they got caught and they were there for a short time. It was a county jail, but I never had a lot of empathy. And I never felt like I was locked up. I enjoyed working at this place in Baraca House of Correction. But what I did realize is when I got sober was I was in my own jail. I had no freedom at all. If I had enough drugs on me, I still needed more. If I had enough booze, I still wanted to make sure that the package stores were open. And back in the day when I got sober, Massachusetts, they weren't selling alcohol on Sundays, you know. They finally changed it. I used to pick a guy up. I used to drive the police wagon. I used to pick a guy up every Sunday, Big John, big man, 6'6", 6'7", huge guy. And he used to drink a bottle of Scope or Listerine on Sundays. And he was the happiest drunk, and he smelled so wonderful. His breath was fabulous, you know. But how it was killing him, because that methyl alcohol is a very powerful thing. It's like witch hazel. But, you know, I never in a million years thought I had that problem, even though I had the prophylactic with the urine and, you know, running around. You just don't see the apple on your own head.
Yeah. And that is true. I was told the forest, you don't see the forest from the trees when you're standing in the, you know
Correct.
what I mean?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
And Mike, I would come back to you for the father piece, for the parent piece. I'm sure, again, you probably, I don't know if your son went through an intervention or, you know, if they used a service like Sam's, you know, his intervention company, obviously not his intervention company, but did he go through an intervention too?
Interventions of sorts. It was always, he would go to the detox, he would get kicked out after so many days, then we'd send him across country to another one, you know, and it went back and forth for years. And then finally, the part about the father realizing, you know what, this is real. Mm-hmm. This is, your kid is dying. Wake up, meaning me.
Sure.
And like you, Mike, 35 years in law enforcement, I had no clue. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it. So I had to put my big boy pants on, tighten the belt, and I said, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
You need help, whether you like it or not. And I literally, by hand, put him in one place after another. And he went to some great sober homes. And once we did that, and once he finally gave up to his higher power, the first time he had a year sober, and then he came out of one, and it went downhill fast because he thought, oh, I can drink now. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do drugs, but I can drink. Yeah. So it went down to worse than ever. It went down to about 120 pounds. And I just got him, and I said, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. You're going to go away to the state hospital, mm-hmm. or you're getting long-term care, and you're going to go. And I said, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. So basically, you did an intervention. Sam, does that sound familiar? But maybe some people have a hard time doing what Mike did, and that's where your services come in also?
Absolutely. You know, I would like to say this, and he did a great job. You know, he's like, this is what you're going to do. You know, that we are no longer going to allow you to run the show. You're fired from any decision making. This is what you're going to do.
Great. That's
and
great.
It looks like you got two options, and they both involve suitcases. You know, that's what it needs to come down to a lot of times. But for the large majority of us, the families, it's like their loved one is a wild Mustang, and they're chasing this Mustang all around the Great Plains, and they've got this saddle called sobriety, and they're trying to get a saddle on this Mustang. Right, and that Mustang's doing exactly what that Mustang is supposed to do, is run wild. And the families are running into each other. They're angry with each other. They're wearing themselves out. You watch any Western, you'll never get a Mustang saddle like that. So what the family does is what we do is we build a corral around that Mustang. We use the family as a corral.
Great.
If you build that corral tight enough where the family is following directions and are supporting one another, and everyone's speaking the same language, right, and taking the same action, you'll get that Mustang saddled every time.
Great
That's
analogy.
how I like to look at it.
Great analogy.
Sounds like he did that.
Oh yeah, and hopefully there's a lot more parents out there listening, and if they need help, just listen to this show. We have some great ideas. We can be reached at, we'll give the number out towards the end of the show. You can call Sam. One thing I always say, I like to say, Mike, time takes time.
You do say that a lot.
Yeah, I do say that a lot. Time does take time, and everything that we put together here, and all our years of time and everything, it does. We do it one day at a time. So what that does, that brings us to our time takes time portion of the show. And it's sponsored by Genesis House. This is where we ask our friends in recovery to email us your sober anniversary so we can celebrate them with you. And we'd like to congratulate the following people. And I have it here somewhere. So this week for Tuesday, May 1st, we want to congratulate a couple folks. I'm trying to catch up on some stuff, so I have some March and April, and we're going to get into May sobriety dates. And Sam, if you want to send us your sobriety date, we'll read it on towards the end of the show, and we'll get you on here when it comes time. So our time takes time. The list today is Heather S. from Minneapolis, Minnesota, 5 years. That was back in March. Again, I'm just trying to catch up. Joe C. from Cumberland, Rhode Island. He has 1 year. Didn't give me a date. Yeah. So also Kevin W. from Massachusetts, 2 years, back in March. Kate T. From New Jersey, 5 years. And most of these people are alumni of Genesis House, believe it or not. So I guess we got a lot of alumni watching. Right. There is 2 special people I do want to kind of give a very special shout out to. Of course, everybody on this list is always special. That, any kind of anniversaries are always special.
Absolutely.
But Arlene T. from Genesis House, she's a tech. She's from Brooklyn, but she lives down in Florida. She has 23 years. Wow. In April, she had 23 years. And Tristan, who we all love down here, he's our maintenance guy, just an all-around good guy, somebody you can just go talk to. He's very caring. He had 2 years in April also. So there are 2 Genesis House employees that we'd like to recognize too. And they're great people. I know them both personally, and they're just wonderful people. Yeah. Super. One other thing, Mike, some house cleaning tips. I want to let everybody know every second Tuesday of each month, we're going to have Rich Lombardi on, our step guy. So just tune in the second Tuesday of every month, and we're going to take a step and kind of go through it. And
step 3 next week. We're going to be talking with Rich.
Step 3 next week. Yep, right. Yep, absolutely. So that's it. Time takes time, and that was sponsored by Genesis House. Super. And listen for your names on some upcoming shows. The way to get your name on a show is email us your first name, last initial, city, state, and anniversary date to help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Put your first name, your last initial, city, state, and anniversary date, and we'll be sure to get them on. And as the list grows, we'll probably read more and more on there. And Sam, I'd like to thank you for coming on and telling us a little bit about your services. More important than the services, we really thank you for that, is that you're here with us and you're 9 years sober and you did it a day at a time and you're able to share your stories and you're able to share your experiences with people. And you're not on the other side. You're with us today. Thank God.
It's all, I got to give it all to God.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great analogy. I really believe, caring and sharing is caring. And you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely.
Taking time out of your busy day.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank Mike as well.
Absolutely.
For coming on the show.
Real quick, give us your services again real quick and phone number.
Yeah. It's Broad Highway Recovery, and the website is broadhighwayrecovery.com, and my cell number is 512-777-9852. And again, thank you guys for allowing me to be on today. And for a bunch of Yankees, you guys are all right.
You did well too.
We'll be sending you a nice T-shirt.
Absolutely. Mike, thank you very much.
It's an honor, gentlemen.
A last minute, he comes on and he kind of shares.
I don't know how good the camera is, but Mike looks. He's a ringer for James Taylor. So,
oh yeah.
If you could end the show by singing a song, Mike, that'd be awesome.
Bring his guitar up.
Hey, listen. We just want to thank everybody. Today's show was wonderful, and really appreciate your time, your effort, and your contributions. Helping people is what we do. Whether you're a therapist or you're in recovery, or it doesn't matter what you do. If you got sobriety, you know the attitude of gratitude you have, and don't be afraid to reach out and help somebody. And if you know somebody that's struggling, again, don't be afraid to reach out and offer your help. Yeah. And you can reach us. We're here 24/7.
Absolutely.
We want to thank everybody, and we're broadcasting live from Studio 21 Cafe. Don't forget, you can reach us at help@friendsofrecoverypodcast.com. Our 800 number is 1-800-989-6504. Again, it's friendsofrecoverypodcast.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to like us and subscribe. Come get sober with us. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
And Mr. Sullivan, thank you for being
absolutely
the producer extraordinaire.
And don't forget, if you want one of these T-shirts, email us. We'll figure it out, and we'll get you out a T-shirt, and we'll get you one out too, Sam.
Two for Sam.
Two for Sam.
Two for.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.